For centuries they had been there, strange shapes in the sky, drifting far above the Earth. Some called them broken satellites. Others thought they were nothing more than space junk. But in truth, no one knew what they were. Astronomers sometimes caught glimpses of them, dark objects, unmoving, always in the same silent orbit. Governments dismissed the reports. Old machines, they said, nothing to fear. But they never explained why those machines gave off no heat, no signals, nothing. They simply waited. One cold night inside a research station high in the Andes. A young scientist named Daniel stared at the data on his screen. The numbers didn't make sense. He rubbed his eyes and leaned closer. "Dr. Varga," he called out, his voice trembling. "You need to see this." The older scientist walked over, annoyed. "What is it now?" Daniel pointed at the monitor. "The object at position 421b. It just moved." Dr. Varga froze. For decades, those things had never shifted, never even twitched. Yet here it was, the readings clear. "That's not possible," she whispered. "They've been dead for centuries." But the machine had moved. And it wasn't the only one. Within hours, observatories across the globe reported the same thing. The silent watchers in the dark were no longer silent. They were turning, adjusting, aligning, all toward Earth. In the White House Situation Room, panic filled the air. Generals argued, advisors whispered. The president's face was pale as she asked the question none of them wanted to answer. "Are they a threat?" "We don't know," replied General Harris. "But ma'am, every single one of those things is now active. They are radiating power, and if they are weapons—" He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Everyone in the room imagined the same nightmare. Fire raining down from the sky. Far above. One of the machines drifted silently until a small human research vessel approached it. The crew had been ordered to investigate, to see if it could be understood, maybe even controlled. The pilot, nervous, looked at the massive structure outside the viewport. It was not like any satellite he had ever seen. Black metal, seamless. "No panels, no lights until now, Commander," he said softly. It's glowing." A deep red light spread across the machine's surface. Strange symbols lit up like veins, pulsing with energy. The crew gasped as the entire structure seemed to wake. "Back us away!" shouted the commander. But it was too late. The alien construct turned toward them, and for the first time in human history it spoke. Not in words, but in a piercing signal that flooded every channel on Earth. The message was short, sharp, and terrifying. "You were warned." News channels around the world exploded. What warning? Who had been warned? Panic spread through cities as people stared up at the night sky, wondering if death was about to fall. In an underground archive in Cairo, an old historian named Karim studied cave drawings that had long been ignored. Strange shapes carved into the stone, shapes that looked exactly like the Watchers. "They knew," he whispered. "Thousands of years ago they knew." The drawings showed not only the machines, but something else. Dark figures with claws, falling from the stars. And next to them the Watchers, standing guard. The Guardians were not here for humans. They were here for something worse. But humans had disturbed them. All across the sky. Beams of blue energy lanced outward. Satellites. Shattered communication lines collapsed. Airplanes were forced down as navigation systems failed. For a moment it looked like the end. Yet the machines did not fire at Earth. Their beams pointed far beyond, into the black void of space. Something was coming. Something enormous. At a hidden base in the Pacific, Commander Harris slammed his fist on the table. "We've been idiots. They're not attacking us. They're preparing for a fight." Daniel, the young scientist, spoke with fear in his voice. "But why send that message? Why say we were warned?" No one had an answer. 3 days later, the answer arrived. From the darkness between stars, ships emerged. They were jagged, monstrous, shaped like blades and fangs. The sky rippled with their numbers. An invading fleet. On Earth, crowds watched in horror as the Guardians moved to intercept. The first clash lit the heavens. Blinding flashes tore across the night as alien weapons screamed against the Guardians' shields. The Watchers fought with terrifying power, but cracks began to show. For every enemy destroyed, 2 more arrived. Daniel watched the chaos on the screen and whispered, "They can't win." In the war room, a desperate silence fell. The Guardians had always been seen as mysterious threats. Now, they were the only thing standing between Earth and annihilation. The President looked at her generals. "Do we help them?" General Harris swallowed hard. "Ma'am, if we fire, we risk becoming their target again. If we stay silent, we let them fall." The room went quiet until the President spoke. "No," she said firmly. "We are human. We do not hide. We fight." Missiles roared into the sky. Fleets of human ships launched, small compared to the Guardians, but fierce in their defiance. For a moment, the Guardians turned their cold eyes toward Earth's fire. Then something strange happened. They shifted their formation, leaving gaps where the human ships could strike. It was not an accident. It was coordination. Humans and Guardians fought together. The battle raged for hours. Cities trembled as the sky burned with light and fire. Ships exploded, streaking across the heavens like falling stars. But slowly, painfully, the tide turned. The enemy fleet broke, retreating back into the blackness of space. When the last enemy ship vanished, silence returned. The Guardians drifted, once more in their endless orbit. They gave no thanks, no message. They simply resumed their silent watch. On Earth, people wept, laughed, cheered. Humanity had survived, not because of the Guardians and not because of their own power, but because for the first time they had stood side by side. Daniel looked up at the night sky and whispered, "Maybe the warning wasn't against us. Maybe it was for us." The Watchers did not answer. They never did. But high above, their cold red lights glowed once more, watching, waiting, guarding. And humanity knew now they were not alone. The world had changed overnight. The Watchers were awake now. Their glowing red veins pulsed in the darkness above Earth, their shadows sweeping across the oceans and continents. Everyone looked up with fear, wondering if those giant machines would strike. But the governments of Earth could not sit still. They needed answers. They needed to know what these things were and why they had suddenly awakened. In low orbit, a sleek human research vessel named Pathfinder drifted cautiously toward one of the Watchers. The crew inside was tense, every eye locked on the massive structure that loomed like a black mountain against the stars. "Keep the distance steady," said Commander Ruiz, his voice calm but tight. "We're only observing, no sudden moves." The pilot, a young woman named Lena, swallowed hard as her hands shook on the controls. "It feels like it's watching us," she whispered. "It doesn't have eyes," replied Dr. Holt, the ship's lead scientist. He adjusted his glasses nervously. "It's just a machine." Lena glanced again at the glowing surface of the construct. "Machines don't stare back." Inside the command center on Earth, hundreds of specialists watched through the live feed. Screens showed the Pathfinder circling the Watcher, its tiny lights like sparks against the alien colossus. The air was heavy with silence. General Harris leaned forward, his jaw tight. "Tell them to scan it. We need readings." A technician turned to him hesitantly. "Sir, they're already picking up something unusual." "What kind of unusual?" The technician's voice shook. "It's responding. The object's energy is changing, like it knows they're there." On the Pathfinder, alarms began to sound. "Commander," Dr. Holt shouted, "the energy levels are spiking. It's reacting to our scans." Ruiz grabbed the comms. Mission! Control, we're pulling back. Repeat, we are pulling back. But before the engines could fire, the Watcher moved. The crew gasped as the massive construct slowly turned, its surface splitting open to reveal an inner core of shifting light. Strange geometric shapes spun like wheels of fire, casting eerie shadows across the ship's hull. "Oh my God," Lena whispered. "It's alive!" The radio exploded with static. A single voice, deep and inhuman, cut through every frequency. "On Earth, you touch the guard responds." On Earth, chaos followed. Phones, televisions, and even radios in remote villages carried the same chilling message. Crowds flooded the streets, pointing to the sky. Some prayed, others screamed. In the Situation Room, the president's face turned pale. "What do they mean by guard?" No one answered. Back on the Pathfinder, the crew tried desperately to retreat, but the Watcher's power held them like a magnet. The ship shook violently, sparks raining from the ceiling. "Engines offline!" Lena shouted. "Shields dropping!" Another cried. Dr. Holt stared at the glowing symbols on the Watcher. His mind raced. "It's not attacking, it's measuring. Us, testing us." Ruiz's voice cut through the panic. "If it wanted us dead, we'd already be gone. Hold your ground." Suddenly, the glow of the Watcher dimmed, then surged brighter. A beam of light shot past the Pathfinder, missing it by inches, and struck a dead satellite drifting nearby. The satellite disintegrated instantly, nothing left but dust. The crew froze in horror. "That was a warning," Ruiz said quietly. Another voice filled the ship, mechanical yet strangely sharp. "You disturb the guard does not forget." Back on Earth, the message repeated in every language, burning into the minds of billions. Daniel, the young scientist who had first spotted the movement days earlier, stood in disbelief. "They're not here for us. They're guarding something. But what?" His mentor, Dr. Varga, shook her head. "If they're guards, then what? Are they guarding Earth from? And why threaten us now?" No one had the answer. On the Pathfinder, the lights flickered as the ship was finally released. Systems came back online with a groan. The crew cheered weakly, relief flooding through them. But Ruiz did not celebrate. He looked back at the Watcher, its red veins pulsing like a heartbeat. "They spared us," he muttered, "but they wanted us to know the cost." Dr. Holt nodded grimly. "The warning wasn't just for us, it was for everyone. They wanted the entire world to hear," Lena whispered. "And what if we ignore it?" That night, across the globe, people could not sleep. News channels replayed the haunting voice again and again. "You disturb the guard. The guard does not forget." The Watchers hung in the sky like silent judges, glowing faintly with alien power. In the Pentagon, General Harris slammed his fist on the table. "We can't let machines threaten our planet. We need a plan. If they want war, we give them war." But Daniel, who had been brought in as an advisor, shook his head. "No, if they're really guards, attacking them could be the worst mistake in human history." The president listened in silence, caught between fear and reason. One wrong choice could doom them all. Far above, the Watchers shifted again. Their glowing symbols aligned into patterns, spinning faster, forming a giant network across the sky. Satellites across the world failed one by one, leaving humans blind in their own heavens. People looked up and saw strange arcs of light dancing between the Watchers. Something was coming alive, something greater than any single machine. Daniel stared at the readings on the screen. His hands shook as he realized the truth. "They're preparing for something out there." Dr. Varga leaned closer. "Out there? You mean?" "Yes," Daniel whispered. "They're not just guards, they're soldiers, and they're readying for war." But the Watchers were not pointing their power at the stars alone. Several of their beams angled downward, toward Earth. For the first time, humanity understood the true danger. The Guardians might not only fight an enemy from the void, they might also fight the humans who had disturbed their long silence. And this time, there would be no more warnings. The sky no longer felt safe. The watchers hovered above Earth like enormous shadows, their glowing veins crossing the night like scars of fire. Every person who looked up felt the same chill. They were no longer alone, and they were no longer in control. In Washington, the Situation Room was tense. Generals shouted over one another, maps of satellites and military assets flashing across screens. The president sat silently, her hands folded tightly, listening to the chaos. "We cannot wait," General Harris barked. "They are disabling our satellites, crippling our defenses. Every hour we sit here, we grow weaker." A scientist at the table, Dr. Varga, shook her head sharply. "Attacking them could end humanity in seconds. You saw what they did to that satellite. We don't stand a chance." General Harris leaned forward, his voice like steel. "If we do nothing, they'll decide we're useless. Then they'll wipe us out anyway." The president raised a hand, silencing the room. "Enough! We need clarity. What do we know for certain?" Daniel, the young scientist who had first tracked the Watcher's movement, cleared his throat. His voice shook, but he forced himself to speak. "We know they're not here for us. Not only for us. They're preparing for something else. But now that we touched them, now that we woke them up, we're part of the equation." "Then what's their equation?" the president asked. Daniel hesitated. "Guards, soldiers, protectors of Earth, or prison wardens. Maybe both." In the streets of New York, panic was spreading. People rushed into shelters. Some prayed in churches, others rioted, demanding answers. Rumors filled the air. Some said the Watchers were angels. Others swore they were demons. On the giant screens in Times Square, the strange alien message replayed again and again. "You disturb the guard. The guard does not forget." The city's noise was broken by the low rumble of military jets soaring overhead. Humanity was not waiting anymore. That night, the first human strike was launched. A squadron of stealth bombers slipped through the clouds, each carrying the most advanced weapons Earth had built. The order was simple. Test the Watchers, see if they could be harmed. Inside one bomber, the pilot's hands trembled on the controls. His co-pilot whispered, "Do you think this is smart?" The pilot stared ahead at the black shape blocking the stars. Orders are orders. They released the payload. Dozens of missiles streaked through the sky, fire cutting across the dark. For a moment, hope flared in the soldiers' hearts. But before the missiles could strike, the Watcher pulsed with red light. A barrier of shimmering energy unfolded around it, and every missile disintegrated, leaving nothing but sparks. The bombers turned to retreat, but they didn't get far. The Watcher rotated slowly, almost lazily, and a thin beam of blue light swept across the sky. One by one, the bombers went dark, their engines fried, their systems dead. They dropped like stones, falling into the sea below. On Earth, the control center watched in silence as the feeds went black. "They didn't even fire weapons," Daniel whispered. "They just turned us off." The president's face was pale. "So we cannot harm them." General Harris slammed the table. "We cannot just surrender. If we bend the knee to machines, humanity is finished." Dr. Varga spoke calmly, but her words cut through the room. "No, General, if we keep fighting them blindly, humanity is finished." The president closed her eyes. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then she opened them again. "We need another approach." Meanwhile, the Watchers were not idle. Their glowing lines shifted, forming vast networks across the sky. They began to pulse in rhythm, as if speaking to each other in a language humanity could not understand. Daniel studied the data in shock. "They're syncing, forming a grid. Whatever they're preparing for, it's almost here. What if they're preparing for us?" Harris muttered. But then a new signal came. It wasn't from Earth, and it wasn't from the Watchers. It came from deep space. The wave of energy slammed into the Guardian's network like a spark against dry wood. The Watchers blazed brighter, their shields igniting, their cores humming with power. Daniel's eyes widened. It's starting. They're answering a call. Across the planet, humans saw the change. Great arcs of light flashed between the Watchers. Oceans glowed faintly under their reflections. Entire cities lost power as the Guardians drew more energy. Lena, the pilot from the Pathfinder, now grounded and sitting in a military bunker, stared at the ceiling. They're not just waiting anymore, they're ready. Her commander Ruiz nodded grimly. And so are we. In the final hours before dawn, the President addressed the world. Her voice echoed across every screen, every radio, every device. That still worked. Today, we stand under the shadow of something greater than us. Machines older than our history, powers beyond our control. Some say we should bow, others say we should fight. But I say this: humanity has never surrendered, not to gods, not to tyrants, and not to the dark. We will not surrender now. Her words carried across trembling cities. For the first time in days, some people cheered, others simply held their loved ones tighter. At sunrise, the sky split, a tear in space opened beyond the orbit of the moon. From it poured shadows, ships shaped like knives, black and endless, gliding silently toward Earth. The Watchers rotated in unison, forming a wall of fire between Earth and the invaders. The battle humanity had feared was not against the Guardians. It was against what the Guardians had always waited for. But the Watchers did not forget who had disturbed them. As they prepared to fight, several of their beams still pointed downward, directly at Earth. Daniel watched the screens with dread. They'll fight the enemy, but if we make one wrong move, they'll fight us too, Dr. Varga whispered. Then, we must prove we're not the enemy. The fate of Earth, now balanced on a blade, to fight alongside the Guardians, or be destroyed by both sides. The alien ships poured from the rift in space like a river of blades, endless and silent. The Watchers moved instantly, forming their defensive wall, glowing brighter than ever before. Their beams cut across the void, striking the invaders in bursts of blue fire. On Earth, billions of people stared up at the sky. Some shouted with hope, others screamed with fear, but not everyone was watching the battle. Deep beneath Cairo, inside a forgotten archive, Dr. Karim spread dusty scrolls across a stone table. The symbols burned in his mind. "These are not myths," he whispered. "They are memories." Daniel stood beside him, his heart racing. The ancient carvings on the walls showed the same dark invaders, now spilling into the solar system. And next to them, the same shapes, the Watchers. Dr. Karim's voice was heavy. They were here before, thousands of years ago. Humanity recorded it, but no one believed. Daniel touched one of the carvings, men with spears, raising their eyes to the sky as giant machines hovered above. "So the Guardians fought for us once," he said, "but why do they see us as a danger now?" Dr. Karim frowned, perhaps because last time humanity betrayed them. In the Pentagon, the debate was fierce. Generals demanded action, while scientists begged for caution. The President listened as Daniel's discovery was relayed over secure comms. "They are not invaders," Daniel explained through the screen. "They are Guardians. They fought this war before, but the records suggest humans once tried to seize their power. That may be why they gave us the warning." General Harris slammed the table. "So we're paying for the mistakes of cavemen. That's insanity." Dr. Varga shook her head. "Not insanity, memory. Machines don't forgive. They don't forget." The President's face tightened. "Then if they cannot trust us, how do we convince them we are worth saving?" Meanwhile, the Watchers were struggling. Their beams cut through waves of enemy ships, but the invaders were endless. For every one destroyed, more poured through. The rift. On the command deck of the Pathfinder, now repurposed as a military relay ship, Commander Ruiz watched the battlefield with clenched fists. "They're powerful, but they're losing ground," he muttered. Lena looked at him, fear in her eyes. If they fall, we're next. Dr. Holt shook his head. Not just us. The whole planet. Back in Cairo, Daniel studied more carvings. His eyes widened. Wait, look at this. The image showed a massive structure buried in the ice, surrounded by men bowing. Above it the watchers floated. It's not just a warning, Daniel whispered. It's a key, something hidden on Earth, something the Guardians left behind. Doctor. Kareem's hands trembled as he traced the symbols. A weapon or a prison. Daniel stood abruptly. We have to find it. If we don't, the Guardians may unleash it themselves. The President listened to Daniel's report in silence, her face pale. So there is something under our feet, something even the Guardians fear. General Harris shook his head. Then we destroy it before they can use it against us. No, Daniel snapped. His voice was sharp, desperate. You don't understand. That's exactly what they fear, that we'll try to control it. If we make that mistake again, they'll turn on us completely. The President stared at the map of glowing watchers in orbit, their red veins pulsing like beating hearts. Then what do you suggest, Doctor? Daniel took a deep breath. We show them we are different from the humans who betrayed them before. We help them fight. High above, the Watchers continued their silent war, but Earth was no longer a spectator. Human warships rose from the oceans, from hidden bases, from deserts and forests. They were small compared to the Watchers, fragile against the invaders, but they burned with human defiance. And when their missiles flew, something unexpected happened. The Watchers shifted. They opened gaps in their formation, allowing the human weapons to strike. It was not random. It was cooperation. On the Pathfinder. Ruiz's eyes widened. They're making room for us. They're accepting our fire. Lena whispered, then maybe Daniel was right. Maybe we can change their minds. For the first time in history, humans and Guardians fought side by side. The battle lit up the heavens, fire streaking across the black void. But even as the tide shifted, Daniel could not stop thinking about the carvings in Cairo, about the thing buried deep within the earth. What if the Guardians had left it here, not as a gift, but as a final test? And what if that test was about to begin? The world held its breath as the alien machines came alive. They floated above Earth in silent formation, their surfaces glowing with streams of blue light. From the ground, they looked like bright scars cutting across the night sky. People pointed, filmed and prayed, not knowing if the end had arrived. In a control room beneath the mountains, General Hayes stood with his hands on the table. The screens showed every city, every orbiting satellite, and the machines that had taken position. His voice was low but firm. We tried firing missiles. Nothing works. They don't even notice us. Dr. Evelyn Carter, a scientist who had studied the Guardians for years, turned sharply. They notice. They're choosing not to fight us. But look. She pointed at one of the feeds. One of the machines pulsed brighter, releasing a beam of energy into the emptiness of space. The officers leaned forward. The beam didn't strike Earth. It shot far past the planet into the dark void. What the hell are they aiming at? One soldier whispered. Carter's voice shook. Not us. Something else. Another screen blinked red. Something was approaching. Massive. Sharp-edged ships tearing through space. The shapes were alien, terrifying, built for war. Contact incoming. An operator shouted, Objects are not ours. They're not human. The room froze. Hayes spoke again. So that's it. The machines weren't here to destroy us. They were guarding Earth from them. The alien fleet drew closer, black ships blotting out the stars. The Guardians moved at last, firing energy beams, each blast slicing through the void like lightning. The invading ships exploded one after another, but more kept coming. Carter pressed her hands against the glass window. It wasn't us who woke them. It was the enemy moving in. But when we touched the machines, we triggered their defense system too soon. Now everything is rushing forward. The ground rumbled as one Guardian released a shockwave so powerful it knocked satellites out of orbit. Cities below flickered, their power grids struggling under the strange pulses. People screamed in the streets, watching streaks of fire in the sky. General Hayes grabbed the microphone. "This is an emergency broadcast to all military stations. We are not the target. Repeat, we are not the target. Do not engage the Guardians. Our fight is with whatever is coming through." But even as he said it, fear spread through the ranks. Soldiers on the coast reported ships being swallowed by energy fields. Civilian airliners struggled as navigation systems went dead. To the ordinary eye, it looked like Earth itself was under attack. A young lieutenant turned to the general. "Sir, the people won't understand. They're panicking. They think the machines are killing us." Hayes clenched his jaw. "Then we show them the truth." The Guardians and the alien fleet clashed above the planet, a silent war in the blackness of space, but cracks began to show. One Guardian fell, its glowing body burning up in the atmosphere like a falling star. Another was torn apart by a barrage of enemy fire. Dr. Carter's eyes widened in horror. "They're losing." On the screen, a swarm of smaller enemy ships broke past the Guardians and aimed straight for Earth. Sirens blared. "Impact in 5 minutes," the operator shouted. General Hayes slammed his fist down. "Enough waiting. Ready our fleet. Send everything we have into the sky." The control room went silent. A commander asked, "Sir, against them? We don't stand a chance." Hayes looked at Carter, then at the frightened faces around him. "We never stood a chance against anything bigger than us, but that never stopped us before." Dr. Carter nodded. "If we fight beside the Guardians, maybe they'll see us as allies. Maybe they'll fight harder." Orders were given. Human warships launched from hidden bases, missiles armed and systems locked. As they rose through the clouds, the world watched in disbelief. For the first time in history, humans were flying not against the unknown, but alongside it. One pilot's voice came through the radio. "Guardian, if you understand us, follow our lead." No one expected an answer, but then the machine closest to the human fleet changed its formation. It tilted slightly, aligning with the human ships, its blue lights pulsing in rhythm with their signals. Carter gasped. "They're listening." The alien swarm descended, claws of steel and fire ready to tear into Earth. Human jets dove in, missiles cutting through space. A Guardian blasted open the path, its beams slicing enemy ships apart. Together, human and Guardian forces fought as one. Explosions lit up the dark sky like fireworks. But the cost was heavy. Human ships fell, Guardians shattered, enemy wreckage rained into the atmosphere. Yet the invaders were being pushed back. On the ground, billions watched, united by fear and hope. For the first time, they understood. The Guardians weren't executioners. They were protectors. And now, humans had joined them. General Hayes stood tall, his voice firm over the comms. "This is not the end of us. Not tonight. Show them what humanity means." A pilot whispered into the radio as he fired his last missile. "For Earth." The Guardians answered, their beams flashing brighter than ever before. Together, they struck the enemy flagship, tearing it apart in a blast that shook the heavens. The battlefield fell quiet. The remaining enemy ships scattered into the void, retreating. Silence returned to the sky. Carter collapsed into a chair, tears in her eyes. "We did it. We actually did it." Hayes didn't smile. His gaze stayed fixed on the screens, where the Guardians now floated silently once again. "No," he muttered. "This was only the first wave. They'll come back. And next time it won't just be the Guardians standing in their way. It will be us." Above Earth, the machines turned slowly. their lights glowing softer now. For the first time, humanity was not just under their watch. Humanity was part of their fight. The smoke of battle still lingered in the skies. Wreckage from enemy ships burned in the atmosphere, falling like glowing ash across the oceans. Cities below watched in awe as the Guardians hovered silently once more, their glowing lights dim but steady. Earth had survived, but in the control room beneath the mountains, no one felt safe. General Hayes stared at the screens, his jaw tight. This was only the beginning, he said quietly. Dr. Carter's voice trembled. You're right, those ships were scouts, testing the Guardians and us. The real invasion hasn't started. Young officer turned from his console. Sir, we're receiving a signal. It's not from the Guardians, it's something else. The room grew cold. Hayes motioned. Put it through. A crackling voice filled the speakers. It wasn't human. The tone was harsh, broken, but every word was clear. Earth will fall, your machines will break. Surrender and live as slaves. The room erupted in whispers. Some cursed, some froze, others just stared. Hayes leaned toward the mic. This is General Hayes of Earth. If you think we'll surrender, you don't know humans. The alien voice gave a chilling laugh. We know you, fragile, divided, weak. The Guardians will not protect you forever. The transmission ended. Silence pressed down on everyone, like a heavy weight. Dr. Carter whispered. They're not just coming for Earth. They want to break us first, make us lose hope. Outside, the Guardians began to shift formation. Their blue lights pulsed faster, as if preparing for something. Suddenly, one Guardian descended lower than ever before, stopping just above the ocean. Waves rose high under its shadow. The world held its breath. Cameras broadcast the moment to every screen across the planet. Hayes muttered, "Why is it coming? Down? What does it want?" Then, like thunder, a voice boomed, not from the alien enemy, but from the Guardian itself. It was deep, metallic and strange, yet understandable. Humans, you are not weak. You are chosen. Stand with us, or fall alone. Gasps filled the control room. The Guardian had spoken. Dr. Carter clutched the edge of the table. They can talk. They've been waiting to. A young lieutenant stammered, "Chosen. Chosen for what?" But no answer came. The Guardian rose again, glowing brighter, and the skies above Earth twisted. A crack appeared, a wound in space itself. Through it came the second wave. Hundreds of enemy ships poured through the tear in reality, darker and sharper than the first fleet. Their weapons glowed with red fire, ready to burn the world below. Sirens blared. Hayes barked orders. "Scramble everything we have. Get the civilians underground. Now!" Human fleets rose once more, battered but unbroken. The Guardians surged. Forward, blue light against crimson fire. The war for Earth had truly begun. Explosions lit the sky, battles raging from orbit to the upper atmosphere. Human ships darted between Guardian beams, striking enemy wings. But the invaders were endless, their numbers overwhelming. On the comms, a pilot shouted, "We can't hold them, there are too many." Dr. Carter's eyes darted across the screens. She suddenly gasped. "Wait, look at the energy signatures. They're not just attacking, they're searching, they're looking for something." Hayes turned. "Searching for what?" Carter's face went pale. "The Guardians. They're trying to destroy the core unit, the source of their power. If they kill that, the others will fall." On the largest screen, one Guardian fought desperately near the rift. Enemy ships swarmed it, targeting a glowing crystal embedded deep within its body. The heart of their strength. Hayes slammed his fist on the console. "If that Guardian falls, the rest collapse. We lose everything." He grabbed the mic again. "All units, protect that Guardian at all costs." The battle turned. Human ships threw themselves into the firestorm, shielding the Guardian with their own bodies. Pilots screamed over the comms, voices cutting out one by one. But they bought time. The Guardians. Core pulsed, brighter and brighter, as if responding to the sacrifice. Then, for the first time, it unleashed something new. A wave of light exploded outward, washing over the battlefield. Enemy ships froze, their systems shutting down, drifting. Helplessly, the control room erupted in cheers. Hayes clenched his jaw, but allowed himself a small smile. That's it. They're not unstoppable. We can win. But then the rift widened. From its depths emerged a colossal shape, far larger than any ship seen before. Its black hull stretched. For miles, weapons glowing like suns, the enemy flagship. The room went silent. Even the Guardians paused, their lights flickering. Dr. Carter whispered, "That's their true force. The rest was just the blade. This is the hand that wields it." The flagship fired once. A beam of red energy cut through space, slicing a Guardian clean in half. The explosion lit the sky like a dying star. Panic spread. Pilots screamed. Civilians watching from their homes cried. Even soldiers froze in terror. General Hayes's voice thundered over the comms. "Hold the line! Don't you dare break! If this is the end, we end fighting." But the Guardians didn't retreat. They surrounded the flagship, their lights pulsing together, building energy in unison. It was as if they had one final weapon. Dr. Carter's eyes widened. They're going to use themselves as a shield, as a bomb. The Guardians aligned, forming a circle around the flagship. Their cores glowed white-hot. Hayes shook his head. "If they do that, they'll all be gone, every one of them." The Guardian voice boomed again. "Humans, this world is yours to protect. We pass the fire to you." And with that, the Guardians released everything. A blinding wave of light consumed the flagship. The explosion swallowed the rift, sealing it shut. When the light faded, nothing remained. The enemy was gone. The Guardians were gone too. Silence. Only human ships drifted in the sky, scarred but alive. In the control room, tears fell. No one spoke. Finally, Hayes straightened. His voice was low but steady. "They gave us their fire, their sacrifice. Now it's ours to carry." Dr. Carter wiped her eyes. "We're not the same as we were yesterday. The universe will come again, but next time we'll be ready." Across the world, people looked to the empty skies where the Guardians had once hovered. The machines were gone, but their message remained. Humanity was no longer just surviving. Humanity had been chosen to stand